There are disappearances that last days, months, even years. And then there are the ones that last only a minute. But somehow, those are the most disturbing of all. People who vanish in the blink of an eye, only to return 60 seconds later. Different. Pale. Dazed. Whispering about places that don't exist on any map. They're never the same. And neither are the people who hear their stories. Tonight, we dive into 3 true tales of people who went missing for just 1 minute and came back with horrors they could barely describe. Story 1. The 1-minute forest gap. Jason Hill was not the kind of person who believed in the supernatural. At 28 years old, he was a software engineer from Portland who found peace in routines, logic, and long weekend hikes. He wasn't a loner exactly, but he preferred the company of silence over small talk. His favorite place to hike was a trail near Mount Hood. Dense woods, barely any tourists, and just enough elevation to work up a good sweat. It was on one such solo trip in early October that Jason experienced something that would fracture his tidy world of rationality. He set out at 7 a.m. sharp, parking his car at the usual gravel turnout. The trail was damp from the night's rain, and the morning fog clung low to the earth, curling around tree trunks like sleepy ghosts. He always brought a GPS tracker, but today it was acting oddly, pinging off location by several meters, but he chalked it up to the weather. About 4 miles in, Jason reached a part of the trail he called the Cathedral, a natural corridor of towering Douglas firs that formed a canopy overhead, letting in beams of light in narrow, dramatic slices. It was his favorite part. Peaceful, sacred even. That's when he saw it, a narrow, new-looking trail veering off to the left. He could have sworn it wasn't there last week. The trees around it looked off, slightly too straight. The foliage was too thick, but curiosity got the better of him. He stepped off the main path, brushing aside a fern and ducking under a low branch. Almost immediately, the sounds of the forest changed. No more birdsong, just wind. But not the gentle breeze kind. This felt like a low hum, vibrating in his chest. The trail led him about 30 feet deeper, then abruptly ended in a small clearing. At the center stood an old wooden bench, cracked and moss-covered, facing a large tree with a hollow so black it looked painted on. Jason approached the hollow, drawn to it like it was whispering, and then everything blinked. He wasn't in the clearing anymore. He was back on the main trail. But the sky had shifted. The sun was now directly overhead. His GPS said 12:47 p.m. Jason blinked. "No way," he whispered, checking his phone. It matched the time. He felt sick. He could have sworn only a minute, maybe 2, had passed. His watch confirmed it. It still read 8:31 a.m. Dead frozen. Panic crept in. He turned to retrace his steps, but the side path was gone. Not overgrown, not faded, gone. Just a solid wall of ferns and brush, with no indication a trail had ever existed. He stumbled back to his car, feeling dizzy and out of breath, as if he'd just run a marathon. By the time he reached the parking lot, something else was off. His car was covered in a thin layer of dust, despite the trail being muddy and recently rained on. A ranger truck was parked nearby. A man in uniform got out and waved at him. "You Jason Hill?" the ranger asked. Jason nodded. "We've had an alert out on your license plate. You were reported missing. That was 2 days ago." Jason's mouth went dry. "What? You didn't come back from your hike on Sunday. Today's Tuesday." He tried to argue, insisted it had been the same morning, but no one believed him. Not his friends, not his boss, not even his sister, who was the one who'd called the police. They found no record of him checking into any place, no sightings, just his car, parked for 48 hours straight. Doctors found nothing wrong with him. No head trauma, no signs of exposure. He wasn't dehydrated or starved. Yet he had no memory of 2 days. Only the clearing, the bench, the hollow tree, and a sound that still rang in his ears when he tried to sleep. A week later, he returned to the trail with 2 friends. They looked for the side path. Nothing. The GPS recorded no unusual route, no detour, just a straight hike and return. But Jason never felt the same again. The woods, once comforting, now gave him the feeling of being watched. At night, he'd dream of the clearing, only now there was someone sitting on the bench. A figure, too tall, too still. And in every dream, the hollow tree would begin to hum. He eventually moved to the city. Stopped hiking altogether. But once a month, at exactly 12:47 p.m., his GPS watch, long dead and tucked away in a drawer, turns on for exactly 1 minute. And every time, it pings a location. Deep in the forest, where no trail exists. Story 2, the elevator that lost time. When Priya Singh landed her dream internship at a prestigious law firm in downtown Chicago, she didn't think her daily commute would become the source of her worst nightmares. The office was in a gleaming 52-story high-rise, a monument of glass and steel that reflected the clouds as if it belonged in a futuristic novel. Priya worked on the 46th floor, and every morning she'd take one of the 4 elevators that zipped employees up at lightning speed. The elevators were sleek, quiet, and equipped with mirrors on all sides, perfect for last-minute hair checks before meetings. It was a Friday, and Priya was running late. She had stayed up most of the night preparing for a presentation and had overslept. By the time she reached the building, it was already 9:12 a.m. The lobby was unusually quiet. Most of the morning crowd had already made it to their desks. Only a few stragglers waited by the elevators. She pressed the button. A soft chime. The middle left elevator opened, and she stepped in alone. She glanced at the mirrored walls and smoothed her hair, then pressed 46. The doors slid shut. She expected the usual gentle jolt followed by the sensation of rising, but nothing happened. No movement, no hum, no numbers lighting up above the door. Just silence. She pressed 46 again, then door open, then every button on the panel, still nothing. The light inside remained steady, and the air was circulating. Cool, normal, but the elevator simply wouldn't move. She checked her phone. No signal. She laughed nervously and muttered, "Of course this happens today." Priya pressed the emergency call button. No sound, no confirmation. She held it down for 5 seconds. 10, nothing. She banged on the doors. "Hello? Can anyone hear me?" Silence. Then suddenly, the lights flickered. Once, twice, and then the elevator began to move. But not up. It was descending. Slowly. The floor indicator remained blank. She tried to steady her breathing. Okay, it's fine. Probably going to the maintenance level or something. But it didn't stop. She had no sense of how long she was moving. It could have been seconds. It could have been minutes. Her ears popped like on an airplane, and the air pressure seemed wrong. Finally, the elevator stopped with a gentle ding. The doors slid open. Priya expected a dark maintenance shaft or some hidden basement level, but what lay beyond was a lobby, or at least it resembled one. Dimly lit, old, dust in the air. She stepped out cautiously. The air smelled like mold and metal. The walls were faded beige, the kind you'd see in hospitals from the 1970s. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, flickering every few seconds. "Hello?" she called. No answer. She moved forward. There was a reception desk, but no one behind it. A sign on the wall read Mandel and Croft, legal offices. She'd never heard of them. Everything looked off. The potted plant beside the elevator was dead and brittle. A water cooler stood in the corner with a cracked jug, long empty. On the desk was a newspaper. The Chicago Tribune, April 3, 1991. Her stomach dropped. She reached for it, hands trembling. The pages were yellowed, crumbling. The ink faded, but it was real. She took out her phone again. Still no signal. The time read 9:15 a.m. She turned in a slow circle, trying to understand what was happening. A hallway extended beyond the lobby, with frosted glass doors and brass nameplates. She walked slowly, reading them. Arnold B. Croft, Esquire. Glenn Mandel, probate law. All the rooms were dark. She peeked into one, a conference room. Dust covered everything. Papers scattered. A half-full coffee cup fossilized into the table. That's when she heard it. A whisper. At first, she thought it was just the air vents kicking on, but it grew louder. She turned toward the elevator, still open waiting, and saw that the mirrored walls inside had changed. Her reflection wasn't moving with her. It stood still, staring directly at her. Then it smiled. She gasped and stumbled back. The lights overhead pulsed once. The elevator doors began to close. "No, no, no!" She sprinted and caught them just in time, diving inside. The moment she stepped in, the lights returned to normal. The floor indicator blinked. 46. The elevator began to rise. No buttons were pressed. When the doors opened again, it was her floor. Brightly lit, busy, voices, phones ringing. She stumbled out, dazed. No one seemed to notice her distress. She checked the time, 9:17 a.m. She went straight to the restroom and locked herself in a stall, hands shaking. What the hell just happened? She didn't tell anyone. Not that day, not the week after. But then strange things started happening. First, she began dreaming of that hallway. Always the same dream. walking past the nameplates, hearing whispers behind every door. The conference room always appeared at the end, and something, sat in the chair at the head of the table, watching her. Then came the elevators. No matter which one she stepped into, she'd see glimpses in the mirror, flickers. Her reflection would lag a half-second behind. Sometimes it would smile before she did. She requested to use the stairs, citing vertigo. Then her phone started acting up. Once a week, at exactly 9:15 a.m., it would reset itself. The screen would flash, and when it turned back on, her home screen background had changed to a faded beige wallpaper, just like the walls in that strange lobby. She finally broke and confided in her roommate. They thought she was overworked, suggested therapy. But Priya couldn't shake the feeling that whatever happened in that elevator wasn't a malfunction. It was a crossing. A mistake in time or reality, or something older than either. One day, 6 months after it all started, she worked late. By 10:15 p.m., the office was nearly empty. She packed up, walked to the elevator, hesitated, and stepped inside, alone. The doors closed. She pressed L for lobby. But the elevator began to descend past the basement, past logic, and when the doors opened this time, there was no lobby. Just darkness, and the soft echo of her own voice, whispering something she couldn't understand. To this day, she has not been found. Only her phone was recovered, found lying in the elevator the next morning, at exactly 9:15 a.m., with the background changed once again, a black screen, with a single blinking word, welcome. Story 3. The vanishing at the crosswalk. It happened on a Thursday morning, April 11th, 2019. I remember because it was my sister Leah's birthday, and we were walking to school together like we did every weekday. We lived just 4 blocks from the high school. Our route took us through a quiet neighborhood, across one main street with a traffic light and pedestrian signal, and then down a hill to campus. The morning was clear. Blue sky, a chill in the air. Leah had just turned 16, and she was excited. She kept talking about how Mom promised to let her practice driving after school. She was wearing her red hoodie, the one with the band logo on the back, and had her earbuds in one ear, like always. We reached the crosswalk at Elm and Brighton, right where the little corner deli was. There was barely any traffic. The light turned red, the walk signal blinked on, and Leah stepped into the street. And then she was gone. I mean that literally. 1 second she was beside me, her foot just touching the painted white lines of the crosswalk. The next, nothing. No sound, no motion, no trace. She didn't scream, didn't run, she didn't fall. She just vanished. I blinked, thought maybe she tripped and I hadn't noticed. I spun around expecting her to laugh from behind me, some dumb prank, but the sidewalk was empty. I looked across the street, no Leah. I looked up and down the block, heart pounding. Still nothing. I called her name. Then I ran across the street, ignoring the light. I shouted for her. The people waiting at the bus stop looked at me like I was crazy. I asked them, had they seen a girl in a red hoodie? Nobody had. In a full-blown panic, I ran back home. Mom thought I was joking at first. Then I think she thought I was having a breakdown. She called the police. They searched everything, our neighborhood, the storm drains, the shops along the block. Dogs, drones, nothing. Not a single security camera caught her. Not the delis, not the city's traffic cams. According to digital evidence, Leah never even walked down that sidewalk. But I know what I saw. I know she was there. The media latched onto it for a while. The crosswalk disappearance, vanished in plain sight. They interviewed me over and over. My story didn't change. Leah was there. We had a conversation. She stepped off the curb, and she was gone. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Her birthday gift sat untouched in her room. Her phone never pinged again. Her bank account never moved. And the worst part? Nobody believed me. Not really. Even Mom stopped talking about Leah as if she might come back. But I kept walking the same route to school, hoping, watching, studying that corner like it held a secret. And then, exactly 1 year later, it happened again. Same corner, same time of morning. I had been standing on the opposite side of the street when it occurred. I saw a man walking his dog step into the crosswalk. He vanished mid-step. I screamed, cars honked. The dog barked and ran in circles, leash trailing behind. This time, I had my phone ready. I had started recording weeks before, just in case. The footage was shaky, but clear. You can see the man, white jacket, ball cap, step forward, then nothing. He's just not there. Police got involved again. They couldn't explain it. They tried to confiscate my video, but it had already gone viral. News vans returned. Scientists speculated. Conspiracy theories bloomed. Some called it a time slip. Others said it was a glitch in the simulation or a dimensional fold. I didn't care what they called it. I just wanted Leah back. Then 2 months ago, something new happened. I woke up to the sound of the doorbell at 3:23 a.m. I looked through the peephole. It was Leah. She looked exactly the same red hoodie, same braid over her shoulder, same confused expression. She was holding a torn piece of paper. I opened the door and pulled her into a hug so hard she gasped. She didn't understand why I was crying. She thought only a minute had passed. 1 minute. In her experience, she had stepped into the crosswalk, blinked, and found herself standing in our front yard with the porch light on. The paper she held was blank on one side. On the other, scrawled in jagged handwriting, were 3 words: "Don't cross again." Police and doctors couldn't explain it. Leah had no memory of any time passing. She had no injuries, no dehydration, no signs of trauma. The paper baffled everyone. No fingerprints, no DNA besides hers. But I knew, in my gut, that someone or something had sent her back. And it had left a warning. A week after Leah's return, I stood at the same intersection again, just watching. That's when I saw the man in the white jacket reappear. He stumbled out of nowhere, right onto the sidewalk, clutching his head and vomiting on his shoes. He collapsed. An ambulance was called. He was rushed to the hospital. Unlike Leah, he was older, disoriented, terrified. He screamed at the nurses, said he'd seen shadows with eyes for mouths, and that they whispered what time really is. He hasn't spoken since. I don't walk that route anymore. And if you ever find yourself standing at the crosswalk at Elm and Brighton, and the light turns red, wait. Just wait. Because sometimes 1 minute is all it takes to be lost forever. Some say time is linear, that it ticks forward, second by second, without pause or deviation. But if that were true, how do you explain people vanishing into thin air, only to return a minute later with no memory, or with stories that defy every known law of physics? Maybe there are cracks in reality. Moments when the veil slips and something else peers through. A wrong step, a strange feeling, a flash of silence in a noisy world. And then, nothing. The real question isn't where they went. It's what followed them back.